Hi there, I'm Dr. Randy Brown, owner of Comprehensive Academic Coaching Solutions, your go-to source for finding the best tips, techniques, and strategies available today to succeed in school and beyond. Today I'd like to talk to you about preparing for college with mental health in mind. We'll take a look at the process in terms of what to expect, what to watch for, and what to do. But first, let me give you a little bit about my background. I retired in 2023 as a school psychologist in the state of New York after serving 33 years in public education. I've also served as a chairperson for several committees, such as the Committee on Preschool Special Education, the Committee on Special Education for Children 5 through 21, and Section 504 Chair for middle and high school students. I also spent a little bit of time evaluating children under early intervention. I've taught at the college level, sharing my knowledge with those pursuing degrees in psychology, social work, and special education. In 2016, I completed training in school neuropsychology through Kids Inc., earning diplomat status for the American Board of School Neuropsychologists. Currently, I'm an executive functioning and academic coach, as well as a parent trainer. Lastly, I'm now a business owner and empty nester. Today, I'll be talking to you about the college process in 3 parts. The first will be to look at issues that pertain to those going into their senior year of high school, then those graduating high school and about to enter their freshman year, and lastly, the communication and boundary issues associated with parent involvement. So, before we begin, let's look at a few important pieces of information that I'd like you to remember well after this presentation. First, the college process as a whole is a time of transition for the whole family, where dynamics will change and new ways to communicate will be important to keep in mind. Second, what I believe to be the most taxing and stressful part of the college process is worry for the unknown, and it's essential to remember that that's normal. Lastly, everyone will go through different emotions at different times, parents and students. And while it may seem like you're the only one experiencing change, know that everyone is and that you're not alone. Okay, so in terms of those students who are about to start the process of applying to schools, let's consider the following mental health factors to keep in mind in searching for the school that's right for you. You want to first look at the counseling services. Look to see what they provide, such as individual therapy, crisis intervention, and maybe group therapy and psychiatric services. You'll also want to look at how available are their appointments. Do they have a waiting list? And what are their after hours and emergency services like? Next, look to see if they offer health and wellness programs like stress management, mindfulness, fitness classes, recreational opportunities, and even take a look at their gym. A holistic approach to wellness can support overall mental health and well-being. The last thing you might want to take a look at are housing options. There are some schools that offer supportive housing, such as quiet living residences or those that allow emotional support animals. So, as you're looking for colleges, I think 2 factors are important for you to consider when you're looking at the right fit for you. The first of which is to know your personality. Would you be happier on a big university campus, or would you prefer a smaller setting? How attached are you to your family, and how far do you think you want to go away from home? And with changes occurring within the next 12 months, it's a good idea to recognize how you cope with change. Are you a go-with-the-flow type person, or are you someone who overthinks and worries? The second thing you should consider is to know about yourself as a student. Do you need help keeping on track with assignments? Do you need a quiet place to study, or are you okay with background noise? What about your time management skills? Do you know how to plan for projects? And also, would it be helpful if you were able to have an adult work with you? Check to see what kind of supports are available on each campus. Now, let's take a look at overall concerns parents and students applying might have during the college process. I want to show you in this chart that students and parents essentially have the same basic concerns and apprehensions, but in just a couple of cases, they think about them in different ways. For example, in terms of academics, Both students and parents have the same concerns about handling the academic and course load, adapting to the higher expectations of college, and maintaining good grades. Students and parents are also concerned with the financial issues pertaining to college. Students are concerned whether or not they'll accumulate excessive debt and perhaps may have to consider whether they might need to get a part-time job. Parents worry about whether or not they'll be able to afford sending their kids to school, both with and without loans. And they also worry about whether or not their children will be able to handle their finances responsibly. Both students and parents are worried about social adjustment. Students worry whether or not they'll make friends and fit in, how they'll get along with their roommate, and how to contend with being away from home for the first time. Parents are also concerned whether their children will be able to make friends, if they'll get along with their roommate, and whether they'll make good decisions. Parents and students are concerned about safety and security. They want to make sure that there are security measures in school and that the college environment is a safe place to be. Looking ahead at some more issues, both students and parents are concerned about peer pressure. Students worry about fitting into social groups, staying true to themselves, and perhaps exploring new identities. Parents also want their children to adapt socially, but have special concerns about peer pressure. They want their children to make good and smart decisions and not just follow the crowd. Independence and responsibility are both factors that students and parents alike worry about. Students are looking at how to handle their newfound independence, take care of their own well-being without their parents' guidance, and learning at times through trial and error how to manage their time. Parents also want their children to be able to handle independent living skills, including their finances, and make responsible decisions, as well as advocating for themselves. Both parents and students are hoping that their schools adequately prepare them for their future careers. Graduation should put them in a position to be career ready or in a place to continue on to grad school after internships and teaching them skills like networking and finding job opportunities. Lastly, mental health is a major concern to both students and parents. There are pressures in academic and social life that can take a toll on a student's mental well-being, and it's important for kids to know where and how to seek support. Now, let's take a look at some concerns specific to each group. With regard to students, they worry about homesickness. Leaving home for the first time can be daunting, and some students experience loneliness or a disconnectedness from their usual support networks. Academic direction is another one of concern. Many students are not sure what they want to major in and worry that they'll choose the wrong path. Adjusting to college life itself is a third concern. College has a lot of policies and procedures to remember, and in the beginning, it's all about knowing your way around campus. Lastly, balancing work and life. Students need to learn how to balance the academic responsibilities with part-time jobs, extracurricular activities, and especially social commitments. Let's move on to what parents worry about. In terms of health and wellness of their children, they want to make sure that they're eating well and exercising regularly. Also getting enough sleep and getting medical care if needed. And they worry about these things because the students are away from home at this point. Parents worry about time management. Besides worrying about their health, safety, and academic performance, parents worry whether their children will get to class on time, if they'll be able to balance their academic responsibilities with social life and or extracurriculars, and whether their kids will experiment with drugs or alcohol. Lastly, what parents are really concerned about is the kind and frequency of communication they will now have with their children. The dynamics have now changed, especially if your child lives on campus. They tend to spend time worrying about what their children are doing and if they're keeping up with all of the demands in their lives now. So getting back to our topic of keeping mental health in mind, what are some things that you can do to get prepared before your child leaves for school? Well, if your child has therapeutic concerns, it's wise to not only consider college services, but to look at independent outside providers in the surrounding community to use as a backup or in lieu of what's available on campus. Telehealth is also an option that's recommended, if appropriate. If your child receives any kind of special services, whether they're learning or emotional, contact the Disability Services Office on campus, especially if your child attends school with an IEP or Section 504 plan, to ensure that the college is able to provide the necessary accommodations. Connect with other incoming freshmen through social media. You can add each other on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, or whatever social media platform you use. This is a way that you can keep in touch and cultivate relationships when school officially begins in the fall. Check out ahead of time what kind of clubs, events, and programming there are. Lastly, recognize that it's common to feel overwhelmed at times when deadlines and workload are excessive. To keep students on track and manage their time, find out what services are offered to help academically. So switching gears, I'd like to share a strategy with you that I think students, parents, actually anybody can employ. It's called the power of hello. Hello is the ultimate icebreaker. Think about it. When you say hello to somebody, the natural reaction is for the person to say hello back. And this is especially helpful during freshman orientation. When you look at what you can say to someone to start a conversation, you can ask other questions or other icebreakers, such as where are you from? What dorm are you in? What's your major? I can give you a personal anecdote about this because I use the same method. When I was about to go to college, my grandmother told me that if I just said hello to people, they would say hello back because I didn't know anyone going to school with me. So for my freshman orientation, where thousands of us got together on campus and I didn't know a soul, there was a girl standing pretty close to me. I walked over to her and I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And she said, "Hi, how are you?" And that got the ball rolling. We then started to ask each other where we're from, what dorm we were staying in, and what our major was. Pretty soon, before we knew it, we went through all of the events at freshman orientation together, and she ended up being my best friend at school through my sophomore year. So it's important to remember to be positive. Go to as many activities as you can on campus. And the important thing on campus is to remember that everyone is feeling the same as you. College is new to everyone. And the important thing I want to stress to you is that I don't want you to isolate yourself. Not going to some of the activities will prevent you from getting to know more people and seeing how being in a college environment can form a sense of togetherness. So in terms of proactive steps students can take in school in the fall, let's take a look at some of these. In terms of academic expectations, recognize the shift from high school to college is going to bring you a significant increase in academic rigor and independence that you'll soon experience. Give yourself the chance to adapt to this because the heavier workload will be easier to handle if you're able to recognize this may be difficult. In terms of social adjustment, know it takes time to make friends and to find a sense of belonging in a college community. A good place to start would be to look at extracurriculars or sports or clubs, places where you'll get a chance to get to know people who have similar interests as you. Another consideration is time management. Be aware that it's going to be challenging at times to balance your academics, extracurriculars, and your own personal time. And if you're able to try to balance that, you'll minimize feelings of being overwhelmed. Homesickness is another thing that students experience as they adjust to being away from home for the first time. Therefore, it's really important to learn ahead of time how to manage your stress because it's going to be very important for your well-being, considering there will be pressure at times from academic demands and social adjustments. Lastly, regarding identity exploration, college is a time for self-discovery, and some students may grapple with questions of identity, purpose, and personal values. Now, if you're a student watching this presentation, let's take a look at communicating and calling your parents. First, it's important to recognize that you're not the only one going through the transition. Your parents will be adjusting to a new situation as well. Understand that parents worry, and they'll never stop worrying. So they're going to ask you questions, and they're doing this because they're not involved in your day-to-day life. They want to know if you're making friends, eating and sleeping enough, and even what you're doing with all of your free time. So I think it's really important for you to communicate with your parents. And one crucial piece, don't let peers make you feel bad for wanting to talk to your parents. It's an absolutely, totally normal thing to want to talk to your parents. And in the beginning, if you need to talk to them a lot, that's okay. Some kids, unfortunately, don't have great relationships with their parents and may try to make you feel silly for wanting to speak to them as much as you want to. Don't give them that power, and you do what's right for you. Let's change our focus to the parents. In terms of proactive steps to consider during the transition, open communication is something that should be encouraged to use with your children. And it's important to let them know that you're there to listen to them and that you're there to help them through any challenges. You can do this by staying in contact and connected to your kids. Whether it's through phone calls or texts or video chats, check in on them. Don't just assume they're doing fine since they're not in your view every day. Next, encourage help-seeking behaviors if they're struggling with their mental health. Remind them that they can always go to the counseling center, or if you made accommodations ahead of time for a private provider, make sure they reach out to them. Lastly, foster a supportive environment. Create at home what you feel is comfortable for you to express yourselves, and then they'll be more apt to communicate with you when they are away at school. Stay informed and educate yourself about the signs and symptoms of common mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and substance abuse. Be aware of what's available in the local community and on campus. Collaborate with college resources. Reach out to the college counseling center if you have concerns about your child. See what you can do to work together to ensure that your children have access to the help they need. Lastly, in terms of parental involvement, consider the level of involvement and communications parents are allowed by the college with regard to mental health services. Some schools have a policy where they'll ask their child to sign a consent that allows the parent to talk to the school. And if that's the case, encourage your child to sign that form. Switching gears again, I want to share my thoughts with the parents about communicating with and calling your children. I think it's important for parents to recognize that your child is adjusting to new circumstances just like you are. Be aware that they may handle the transition to college differently than they've handled other situations to date, especially if they're living away from home for the first time. Your child might have emotional challenges that weren't there before, and these new academic demands may present new issues or concerns over grades. Understand that your child will be navigating their own new world and won't have as much time to connect with you as you may like. I would say it's a good idea at the beginning to keep questioning to a minimum where you can. Instead, tell them what's going on in your world. Try to keep the conversation balanced, and if you can do this, I believe your children will be more apt to share information with you. And while it's critical to keep lines of communication open with your children, have patience as they establish their independence. Be mindful that this could be a difficult time for them. Provide support and guidance and allow students space to navigate their college journey independently. So now let's talk about what I really think is the meat and potatoes of the whole presentation. Coming up with a plan should your child have emotional concerns at school. I really think it's a good idea to be proactive should there ever be an issue. The plan should be created and agreed to by you and your child before they leave for college. It should contain essential components, such as how many times per week will you communicate with each other? What modes of communication are helpful, such as should you be calling or just texting? I would suggest initially a once-a-day thumbs up for the first 2 weeks would be a good benchmark. So, for example, if you as a parent send your child the thumbs up emoji as a text and your child sends you a thumbs up back, that should be an understanding that everything's okay and I will talk to you at another time. I also think it's okay to have a once-a-week video check-in at a mutually agreed upon time. I know the importance of getting your eyes on your kids. You want to see for yourself how they're doing. For the students watching, even if you find this unnecessary, it'll mean the world to your parents if you can do this for them. And truthfully, especially if there are mental health concerns, you'll be more apt to pick up on their nonverbal language if you see your kids. What should also be on this plan are provisions about what to do should there actually be a concern. Consider some of the earlier slides where we talked about what services are available, such as telehealth, and to proactively decide what to have in place. For instance, will you have more frequent check-ins? Will you go up to the school to see your child is okay? Does that mean your child will come home from a break? Will you call the counseling center? Or maybe you'll contact an outside provider. I think the benefit of having this figured out ahead of time will save you time and stress from figuring this out on the spot. So before I close, I have some last-minute thoughts. I think it's important to remember that mental health is just as important, if not more so, than your physical health. You need to be aware of how you feel, recognize if you struggle, and know that it's okay to ask for help. If for whatever reason you are not happy at school and you're not sure that the place where you're attending is the right fit for you, know that it's okay to feel that way and know that there are solutions. These include transferring to another college, coming home to go to community college until you're either ready to move forward at school or until you know where and what you want to do. And really understand that if either of these is an option, so be it. Realize that this is not a failure. It's not a bad thing to transfer if you feel you don't have the right fit. Your mental wellness is what matters. Thank you for watching my presentation on preparing for college with mental health in mind. I'm Dr. Randy Brown, owner of Comprehensive Academic Coaching Solutions at www.cacsnow.com. Feel free to contact me for any questions or if you'd like to schedule time to talk about your particular situation. Have a great day.